Why manifesting is a blood oath. Why does the word manifesting, why was it ever interjected within the vocabulary of spiritual people? Why was it taken to be something that it is not? Why do we have this allure to this word where we think that it is a magical elixir when it is actually a toxin, a word that is corrupted with the most horrendous of all evils and vibratory structures within it? Now, that's a bold statement. So, welcome, Evolutionaries. I am excited that you are here today for the next episode in the Awakening series. So let me, before I talk about manifesting, I need to set the stage and help you understand exactly where and how the word manifesting came into being. Now, how many of you are familiar with what is known as the law of the sea? Now, the law of the sea has been the prevalent law over the entire world since, well, Babylon, 6,000 years ago. This wicked establishment set the rule for the entire world. And so the law of the sea is the dominant law of this world, not the law of the land. And this is different from admiralty law. This is something that has taken root and taken control over every country in the world. And while I can speak to multiple countries, let me talk specifically about the United States in our near history, because I'm an American. And so this is really near and dear to my heart, and I would wager that the majority of Americans watching this, those familiar with the United States, are unfamiliar with some of the things that I'm going to cover that is going to directly relate to the word manifesting. So let's look at the founding of the United States of America. The United States of America was founded as a republic. The original Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. Now, how many of you know, are familiar, that there was a coup done in the United States? And a new constitution was signed in 1871. This new constitution of the United States turned the United States from a republic into a corporation. A corporation is a non-living entity. If you look and dissect the word corpse or corporation, it contains the word corpse. And so as a corporation, you and I lost all of our sovereignty, all of our rights. We have certain privileges from that point forward, those who live in the United States. And when I say the United States is not alone, because nearly every country in the world has been incorporated by the Bank of England, who controls the corporation under the guise of the Vatican. Now, that's a little trippy, a little broad to talk about, but as I mentioned, I'm going to focus and leave me comments and questions, because this is a very heavy topic. My goal is not necessarily to put money in your bank, but it is for me to put money in your celestial bank account so that you graduate the game, so that you escape the reincarnation cycle, so that you can go on and play and go to your next adventure, because we've all been trapped here in Earth School for quite some time. And those of us who talk about past lives and are radiant in past lives know that, and some of us, I have figured out that this is an entrapment. And so what I am trying to do is free the latches of the trap so that we can all move on and play among the stars. So what did it mean with the second Constitution of the United States that occurred in 1781? It meant that you are now a property. You are no longer a citizen or what would be considered a living person. You are now the property of the Vatican via the Bank of England. And what's even more trippy, and this is why you are entrapped in a reincarnation cycle, is the Vatican actually laid claim to your soul, which lays in certain trust, demonic trust, if you will. and this is something that we have to be aware of. And I'll talk a little bit more about consciousness and how I got to this point towards the end of this episode. So how is this possible? How is the law of the sea possible? Well, the Phoenicians who escaped or not escaped, but migrated from Babylon to Venice. And Venice is seen by them as a sailing vessel, if you will. It is an island, but it is on the sea. And from the city of Venice, they govern all things, including and have oversight of the Vatican, of the city of London, which is inside of London, and Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., for those of you who are not aware, is a city-state. It is separate from the United States. And here's even a little bit more of a trippy tidbit, is the city of Washington, D.C. is actually owned by the Phoenicians in Venice. It is not a true part of the constitutional United States. It is the corporate headquarters, if you will, of the Phoenicians. So let me move on. So as evil religion drenched in blood, with sacrifices of children that are deplorable, took control of this planet and began to take over the ruling factions from the Queen of England to the President of the United States. And speaking of the United States, Rutherford Hayes is the president that had oversight when the Constitution was sold out and we became a corporation. So technically, Ulysses S. Grant was the last true and noble president of the Republic of the United States. And I encourage everyone to go down this rabbit hole and do some research, because this is fascinating, and I'll get to an understanding why this is important for you to actualize and step forward into the darkness or the shadow to begin to understand why all this has happened, why and how even these spiritual teachers who pretend to be awake, now they may have some gifts, but they don't have a true understanding of the awareness. While they are awakened, there is a balance that needs to happen, which I, again, will talk to or speak to in just a moment. So getting back to the law of the sea, how is this possible, Joe? Well, the law of the sea is developed, if you are created, their laws, their treaties are developed around all ocean-faring vessels. So when you are born, you pass through a birth canal. And this birth canal is the water which brings you aboard the ship. And when I speak of a birth, I'm talking and speaking to the word B-E-R-T-H, like the birth of a ship, not the B-I-R-T-H that we all know. We actually have a birth, B-E-R-T-H, certificate. This birth certificate is really a stock certificate. This stock certificate is held by the Bank of England as creation that you are now their property. The footprint or the stamp of the baby by the mother on the birth certificate is the signature that they now, the baby, you, I, who were born into this system, are now the property of the Bank of England, or the care of the Bank of England under the ownership of the Vatican. And of course, you are born and brought into aboard this vessel, this sea vessel, if you will, by a doctor. So that's D-O-C-K, not D-O-C-T-O-R. And of course, doctors are completely unaware. I mean, for the most part, there are some awake physicians in this world who have found ways around binding a child to this birth certificate. And this birth certificate, as I mentioned, is a stock certificate which is traded by the global elite. Because again, you are, in their eyes, nothing more than property, which will give you the first hint. what is the definition of a manifest? A manifest is nothing more than the list of property, of chattel on an ocean-going vessel. So when you are manifesting, you are actually indulging and deepening the spell, this black, dark spell that they have cast upon you every time you manifest, because the word manifest is tied with child sacrifice. It is tied with blood magic. And for those of you, this is, I know, heavy. And this is something that's a little outside the ordinary, but because this is an awakening series and where the planet is today, this is of utmost importance for you to understand, to wake up and at least allow me to plant a seed that allow you to look at the world in a little bit of a different way. One of the things that I share with people all the time is that the quality of the questions that you ask is directly proportional to the quality of life you have. And when I say that, I'm not talking only about this lifetime. I'm talking about lifetimes into the future, following the Socratic method, the great Socrates, who taught solely by asking questions. So by asking questions, you deepen your understanding of things that can enrich your life or take and steal your life force away. So again, you are a list of property, nothing more. You are a soul. Your soul is held in trust by the Vatican. As crazy as that sounds, this is absolutely true. And if you, like I said, have any questions, go out to a search engine, not Google, because Google has hidden a lot of this because they are tied into this democracy. And when I say, I didn't say democracy, I said demonocracy. So all words have power, and we know that all words have power, yet we don't necessarily understand where and how that power originates. And this power can be either positive or negative. And I would recommend everyone read the book by Florence Scovel Shinn. She wrote a book at the turn of the century, the 1900s. Your word is your wand, and she spoke specifically about this. And it is in public domain, so you can really just download the PDF. But she does a great job of just highlighting words and using words and the frequency of words that can actualize great wealth for you. And so that's something that's on the positive side. I'm here to share with you what's happening on the negative side and why the word manifest is a corruption of your soul in this lifetime. So first off, as I talk about this democratic controlling faction over the earth, these global elites, which are also known as the Illuminati, they're also known as the Cabal. Let me explain to you some things that they've hidden in plain sight. So we all are very aware, for Americans and most of the world, of the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty just in itself gives an incredible clue. So what is liberty? Well, liberty is someone sailors on a ship. So it's not Statue of Freedom, it is Statue of Liberty. So liberty is something when sailors go ashore for shore leave and they have to come back. They are entrapped, if you will, or a part of that navy, a part of that crew. And so liberty unto itself designates that you are not free. You have a liberty. But again, the word choice here is absolutely key. Now, another thing that is interesting, which most people do not know, the word or the statue itself of Lady Liberty is actually the goddess Osiris, the ancient Egyptian goddess, which is, by the way, where this evil controlling faction has based its entire religion off of. And it's incredibly sad. Did I say Osiris? I meant to say Isis. Osiris is the Washington Monument. And that's interesting unto itself, because as we transfer over to Osiris, we see the Washington Monument as this amazing symbol for George Washington, and yet we do not understand what it truly represents. So Osiris was murdered by his brother and chopped up into many pieces, and then his mother, Isis, came back and put him together and found all the pieces except for one, and that was his male penis. And so that male penis, she found a stone and put it where it should be, made love to her son, and created this demonic arising, which is what these people that are controlling the planet at this time have done. So the Washington Monument is a representative of this sick cult that is controlling the world. So when you look at the Washington Monument, you look at the 555 feet tall by 55 feet wide on each side. Now, what you may or may not know is that translates into 6,666 feet tall. So you've got demonology hidden in plain sight. And of course, the 55 feet wide is all constructed around the 666 inches as well. So, and there's all kinds of interesting things that these people, these demons, have put in place, such as the original address of the United Nations, which was an initial construct for world control in the modern era. Its address was 666 United Nations Way. Now I think they've changed that to 668. And going back to some of the books, early spiritual books, it was actually published by Lucis Trust. And again, you can go back and Google these. So have doubts of any spiritual books, ancient texts that were brought into this country under the guise of Lucis, which is Lucifer, Trust. Again, what I am asking you or requesting you, or just planting the seed, is to practice discernment around who you follow, because if someone is purporting and teaching you how to manifest, they don't understand the evil context behind the word manifestation and manifest, and that they are ensealing you as property for this demonic group. And of course, as we kind of go down through and look at different things, just before I go to the International Monetary Fund, let me talk a little bit about U.S. currency, because U.S. currency, we all know the all-seeing eye is above the pyramids. I don't need to talk to you about that, but there is other occult symbology hidden within the dollar bill, as well as all currencies of the world, to taint the energy and the energetic. One of the things, and you can Google or whatever and find the owl. There is an owl hidden in or on the dollar bill. And you go, well, Joe, what's an owl? Well, an owl, number one, is kind of a cool bird, but if you understand the nuances of an owl, because it can see at night, it's a predator, it hunts at night. So just like these dark beings do, they hunt within the darkness, and they see and they foretell. But the other interesting thing, which most people do not know about the owl, is the owl has special wings, and these wings are cupped in a certain way so that when it flies at night, its victims can't hear it. It is known as the silent killer, which is exactly what these democrat world leaders do. Is they will come in the stealth of the night, and you don't know that they are there to harm you. And when I say harm, not only am I talking about taking your life, I am talking about stealing your spiritual essence, stealing your life force. So that comes in many different ways. And some people go, well, Joe, I do cryptocurrency. Well, I can tell you, because I've worked in cryptocurrency and helped a friend of mine start a company a while back, or I started to, and I got into it. I was like, dude, I am stepping away from this because this is staunched in evil. Because within the coding of cryptocurrency, of all the big ones, it is staunched in, it's coded so that it is, well, I'll just say it's evil. And cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin, was started so the global elite could hide things, could hide and move money around for the buying and selling of children. Yeah, that's pretty sick. The buying and selling of children. Most people think we live in a petro economy. Everything's based on the petrodollar, which is controlled by the Rockefellers. But there's even a secondary currency which most people are afraid to, are unaware of. And even if they are aware of, they're afraid to peek behind the veil. And that is the currency of children. A child today sells on average around $30,000. And it is, well, do your own research. But I can tell you that cryptocurrency, when you look at the International Monetary Fund, the clearinghouse bank, I pulled it up here on my phone, and I'm going to show you real quickly. If you notice this, well, if you notice this, this looks a lot like the Tower of Babel. And this is, again, the clearinghouse for the International Monetary Fund. And again, I want you to draw your own conclusions, but there is a deepening awareness in this awakening that's happening globally so that we can take back our rights, take back control of the planet from these evil beings. And I know you're probably going, okay, Joe, you started talking about manifesting. This is going way down a rabbit hole, but it's important for you to understand the depths of the corruption with some words. And right now, I'm just talking about the word manifest. And you might go, well, hey, Joe, I follow this really cool dude or this really like enlightened chick, da-da-da, or girl or woman, da-da-da. And I can tell you that they may be pure of heart or good of heart, but they cannot outweigh the millions of children that have been sacrificed, this blood oath given to these controllers of the law of the sea, which again creates and owns you. You are the manifest. You are their property. You are their chattel. That's the Vatican's word for property, is chattel. You are their chattel. And so it's very important to pick your words wisely. Oh, one more thing about the owl, and I would like for you to Google or do like start page of one of the others, Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove is a place in California where the elites gather to do horrible things to children. And of course, the big symbol at Bohemian Grove is the owl. And again, I love owls as an animal, but they have, again, corrupted the meaning and inlaid, if you will, the energy of this demonic force within the owl on the US dollar, as well as other currencies as well. And so when I talk about this, my whole goal is to create an awareness so that you are awake. So for those of you who watched my last video, I talked about the 8 virus. The 8 virus, which is, well, watch the video, but I'll give a quick summary, dropped into this game of 3, 6, 9. So 3 is matter, 6 is spirit, and then once they come together as a polarity, they hit the 0 point field, and the 9, which is the graduation number, is engendered. So we fall victim to the word manifest because it activates the 8 virus. So the 8 virus is dealing with matter and big houses and money and fancy cars. Now, I'm not saying you can't have that, but you have to understand the energetics of getting to that without falling victim to manifesting and the infinite destruction of your soul with the 8 virus. So where I look at a lot of spiritual teachers, and you look at this 8 viruses here, they're really here with regards to being awake versus being aware. And what I am doing here, I'm not trying to wake you up. I'm trying to create awareness. And so they think they're down here, close to this godly state, but you can't step into a godly state unless you are aware. So let's look at consciousness. So no one has ever talked about consciousness like this, but consciousness is a sphere. So a lot of people think their consciousness is up here, and they're just seeing this little bit of evil, if you will, this little bit of darkness, and they're cutting cords and doing all this stuff. But I can tell you that to be fully awake and to engage consciousness fully, you've got to be able to step in and see everything. You have to be the darkness inside of the deepest, darkest pits of hell. You've got to pull that back and rip these children, the souls, to free these souls from these demons. And I know this is heavy, but this is something that needs to be shared at this time. And again, it doesn't matter who your favorite teacher is, if they are following and using the term manifest, and this is one example, their understanding is here. They may think they're here, but they do not understand the depths of darkness and corruption tied to this word. And there's a reason that the word consciousness has the word con in it. So shushness is something that is beyond the word consciousness. Even I use the word consciousness for people to understand, but be highly suspect of any word that has the word con in it. And of course you can use the Spanish, which means with and this and that. But again, everything carries an energetic frequency. So I have peered into the darkness. So I will step into, and I have fought demons within the darkness of the etheric. I have stared it down. I've seen pictures of children, which I can't even talk about here because it's so heartbreaking, of just what they've been through. You cannot imagine what these people do to children. So I want to just throw it out there. Dare to see and stand in the darkness. I want everyone to be the storm. Be the storm. Come in and wipe the demons off the face of this earth. Be the storm. Stand for righteousness. Be the light so that the light can be cast. And the darkness, no matter how deep, then you shall be the light to reign supreme and command these demons be gone forever from this planet. And that is the opportunity, the door that opened for us on 12/21 of last year, where all the energy for all of the beings here to bring the God force into this planet, this is where and how we are. So, in closing, be careful who you listen to. Focus on what's and how it resonates with you. It is very important for you to understand where and how you can break the reincarnation cycle and be the light of the world. So I'm Joe Heller. I love you guys so much. I realize this is heavy and you're going to have some time to process, but leave me notes in the the comments below. I don't remember what it was, and I really task myself very deeply or diligently to answer them. So I love you, and with that, have a beautiful day. You are the light, which is why you found this, and the whole goal is for me to help you expand your consciousness to see and be not only awake but aware, so you can command all things and be that loving presence on earth. I'm Joe Heller. Bye-bye.